Hello, I'm the Pageant Nerd, and thanks for checking out this video covering the longest placement streaks in the history of Miss Universe.
Philippines!
In the world of pageantry, you're hard-pressed to find a more passionate group of fans than the Filipinos. They're justifiably proud of their queen's incredible run of placements in each of the past 10 Miss Universe competitions. That phenomenal run, of course, includes the titles of Pia Wurtzbach in 2015 and Catriona Gray in 2018, plus the 2012 first runner-up finish of Janine Tugonon. But it's all the more remarkable because it was preceded by 10 consecutive years of non-placements. I'll cover the longest active streaks in more detail in part 2 of this series, but today I'm looking at the all-time best streaks of placements at Miss Universe, starting right now.
I'm going to read these names in random order, ladies. The first semifinalist for the title of Miss Universe 1995 is...
In case you were wondering, placing at Miss Universe means qualifying for at least the semi-finals. What are the semi-finals, you might ask? They're the countries called out by the host during the main telecast after the Parade of Nations. And they're the highest scoring contestants from the preliminary competition of interview, swimsuit and evening gown, featuring all the contestants, typically held a few days before the finals night when Miss Universe is crowned. Over the years, the number of semi-finalists has varied, anywhere from 10 up to its current 20, and other numbers in between. So, regardless of how many semi-finalists there are in a given year, if you're called out on finals night, you've placed. When televised computer scoring debuted at Miss Universe in 1978, it was only the preliminary swimsuit competition scores that were initially made public during the swimsuit fashion shows that were a wonderful feature of the pageant until 1989, showcasing the host nation in the process. It was all the more heartbreaking for contestants in the 1990s, when all the preliminary scores were shown on screen during the Parade of Nations, meaning it was possible to calculate who just missed out. As the total number of contestants at Miss Universe approaches 100, it's getting ever harder to qualify for the semi-finals. So for nations to achieve consecutive placements is all the more impressive. You've just seen a sample of placement streaks compiled, but now we'll get into rare territory. Double digits, 10 or more years of consecutive placements, which has been achieved so far by just 5 countries. The Philippines, as I mentioned, has the longest active streak with 10. And Germany also compiled that many in a row from 1952, capped off with the title of Marlene Schmidt in the final year of that streak, 1961. India's USA's incredible consistency in the 1990s and early 2000s was rewarded with 11 straight placements from 1992 to 2002, which included the titles for Sushmita Sen in 1994 and Lara Dutta in 2000. Amazingly, in both those years, India also won the Miss World crown, thanks to Aishwarya Rai and Priyanka Chopra, respectively. There are only 2 other countries that have outdone India in terms of consecutive placements, and they happen to be the nations with the most Miss Universe crowns: Venezuela with 7 titles, and the USA with 8. They're the focus of today's video, so get ready for some nerdy pageant facts and figures. The USA leads Venezuela in titles by just 1, and also in consecutive placement streaks by the same number. American delegates scored 22 straight placements from 1977 to 1998, while Venezuela fell 1 short, with their run lasting from 1983 through 2003. But that's where the similarities end. For one, the USA also has a separate 18-year streak to boast of. From the pageant's inception in 1952, the USA placed in the first 5 editions, picking up the titles of Miriam Stevenson in 1954 and Carol Morris in 1956. And were it not for Leona Gage's shocking disqualification in 1957, the USA would have had 24 consecutive placements all the way through to 1975. Gage, who won the 1957 Miss USA title on the eve of Miss Universe, as it was staged in those days, had competed in the Miss Universe preliminaries and been announced as one of the 15 semi-finalists. Back then, the semi-finalists were announced prior to finals night, and before that was held in 1957, it was discovered Gage had been married, had 2 children, and had lied about her age. 3 strikes and you're out, the saying goes. From 1958 onwards, the USA enjoyed its first major streak of 18 placements, including 2 more crowns for Linda Bement in 1960 and Sylvia Hitchcock in 1967, plus first runner-up finishes for Deborah Shelton in 1970 and Amanda Jones in 1973. The USA's first official exclusion from the semi-finals came in 1976, when Barbara Peterson didn't make the first cut. Then began the record-breaking 22 consecutive placements, an incredible streak which included 3 crowns: Shaun Weatherly in 1980, Chelsea Smith in 1995, and Brooke Lee in 1997, and also 4 first runner-up finishes. This streak also featured the 5 consecutive Miss Texas title holders from 1985 to 1989, with Christy Fitchner's second place result in 1986 the best of the bunch. "23 years after Barbara Peterson's exclusion, it was Kimberly Ann Pressler who had the unfortunate distinction of ending the all-time best streak in 1999. Since then, Shauntae Hinton in 2002 and Rima Fakih in 2010 were the other Miss USAs who missed out. As you saw earlier, the USA has placed in the past 9 Miss Universe competitions, with Olivia Culpo collecting her country's record-breaking 8th crown in 2012, Nia Sanchez finishing 2nd in 2014, and Olivia Jordan 3rd in 2015. I'll be covering that in my longest active streaks video in part 2 of this series. Overall, the USA has placed 63 times in its 67 attempts. But let's state the obvious here. The Miss Universe pageant originated in the USA and continues to be owned and run by an American company. And as is often the case with international pageants, the nation of its origin tends to fare quite well. The same goes for Miss World and Miss Earth, for example. 6 of the USA's 8 crowns have been won on home soil. To be clear, I'm taking nothing away from the USA's impressive efforts. Here, I'm merely highlighting the different paths to success between the USA and Venezuela. While the USA enjoyed immediate success at Miss Universe, it took some time for Venezuela to make its mark. In the 25 times it competed before its first title in 1979, Venezuela made the semi-finals only 9 times, albeit with 2 first runner-up finishes. In contrast to the USA's 8 victories spanning 59 years, Venezuela won all 7 of its titles to date between 1979 and 2013, just a 35-year span. That's 1 crown roughly every 6 years on average. It's fair to say that without the vision of Osmel Sosa, longtime president of the Miss Venezuela organisation, Venezuela wouldn't have tasted anywhere near the level of success it has at international pageants. In addition to 7 Miss Universe crowns, including a Guinness World Record for the first ever back-to-back, Osmel also helped Venezuela win 5 Miss World and 8 Miss International crowns prior to his retirement from the organisation in 2018. Curiously, Venezuela's first 2 titles, by Maritza Sayalero in 1979 and Irene Saez in 1981, were surrounded by non-placements in 1978, 80 and 82. (1983) was the start of Venezuela's ascent to Miss Universe Titan status, reaching at least the semi-finals every year for the next 21, with Barbara Palacios Tede's title next in 1986. Incredibly, they reached the top 6 or better every year from 1991 to 2003, a 13-year streak that even the USA can't match, and which included Alicia Machado's win in 1996. Four more first runner-up finishes followed over a 7-year span. But all of that surprisingly came crashing down in 2004 when Ana Karina Áñez was shut out of the top 15 in Ecuador, ending Venezuela's best ever 21-year placement streak. Áñez was considered one of the title favourites before the 2004 pageant, and where Jixat Viña missed the semis in 2006, Venezuela's supremacy looked to be in doubt. Those doubts were swiftly and phenomenally erased just a handful of years later, with the unprecedented back-to-back by Diana Mendoza and Estefania Fernandez in 2008 and 2009, which I've covered in previous videos. Aiming for a three-peat in 2010, Venezuela failed to place, with Marilisa Gibson missing the cut. It was the 3rd time in Venezuela's Miss Universe history that they failed to place, having won the crown the previous year. Interestingly, of all the times both Venezuela and the USA have competed at Miss Universe, 2010 is the only time neither country made the semi-finals. Venezuela has never had the luxury of hosting the Miss Universe pageant, so their 7 coronations and 44 placements in total all occurred on foreign soil. Although it's interesting to note that the biggest international pageant they've hosted in recent years, Miss Grand International 2019, resulted in a Venezuelan victory. Will we ever see 20-plus year placement streaks again at Miss Universe? Can the Philippines double their active streak? Leave your thoughts below. In part 2 of this series, I'll look at this and the other longest active placement streaks. If you like this clip, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And if you have, thanks very much. And thank you for watching. It's bye for now from the Pageant Nerd.